And get set, ready, go. Ready to go live. 2, 3, 1, 4. You're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Tonight we got a great show for you on Native American myths and legends with my co-host David Null and my special guest Linda Brooks.
Good evening, greetings and blessings, everyone. Hope you're doing fine. Thanks for coming.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me better now, Robert?
A little bit. You sound distant, very distant.
Now, can you hear me?
A little bit better.
What about now?
That's better.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you may have to pull that speaker or the microphone closer to your. Yeah, because it sounds distant. Nina is in the house. Nina the Mystic is in the house. Thank you for coming. She's probably, it's a earlier time. She's 2 hours different. So it's 7 o'clock. She's probably coming in the house and having some dinner. I should be wearing my wonderful Anna Karana hat from Nina the Mystic. Go get your stuff today. It's right there. Anna Karana stuff is beautiful. I got this hat
going on through the end of the month.
Yes.
Yep. She's through the end of the month. So
yes, we're not an infomercial, but we're supporting our other comrades here and our other Soul Tribe members. Everybody, thanks for coming. We got some new people in the house. Lakeside Laura and Savage Lee, welcome. I see Jules popped in, and we got Gaza Cav. Gaza, I gotta have you on for another show. If I forget this week, send me an email. Maybe we'll get you on. This next Saturday. Would you like to come on this next Saturday, Gaza? If you got time, I don't know what your schedule is or what's going on in your life, but try to hit me up, or I'll try to hit you up this week. I keep forgetting. I got to get you on the show. I want you on for the Atlanta show to talk about Australia stuff too. Anyway, she says 25% off, website only. Not merch, only the website stuff. Okay, thanks, Nina. And we got Isby in the house, who will be on with me for our final Giants, the Og King discussion with King Og. We should be able to finish up the book this week. So whatever you haven't got to, you'll find out the ending, and we'll talk all about Giants. And if you got any suggestions about Giants or things let me know. Send me an email. Everything is in the description below. Thank you all for participating in that show too, because we're going to finish up, and then Isby is going to start doing some shows maybe on his channel to get him going. All right, so tonight we got a special one, and as you can see by my background, we're going to talk about the Comanches. And that was hopefully that's what I said last week, is Comanches, because I did a lot of studying on them and I found out some really cool stuff. And they were, I tell you, they ran the plains. They did. Okay, I'm going to screen share here with all of you so you can, get the gist of this. And I always put on, as Lucky would say, I put on a great presentation. It could stand alone by itself. I should just make videos of my presentations for goodness sakes. But anyway, as you can see, there's your Indian guy, and he is shooting a buffalo with an arrow on a pony. Okay, one of the most famous war chiefs of the Comanche was Quanah Parker. Yes, and we'll get to know him in a second here. Quanah Parker is this guy here. He was the last chief of the Comanches and the son of Cynthia Ann Parker, who was captured as a child by the Comanches. So he's part white. I don't know. We'll find out here as I read along. And I hope y'all can see this. I'm going to blow this up a little bit, and we're going to read this. I have so much stuff, so I'm going to try to go fast. Sorry if I mispronounced the words, but this stuff was fascinating. These people were tough as nails. Oh, man. Okay, this story was broadcast on June 23rd, 2010, and Empire of the Sun and the Moon is now available in paperback. Yes, there is a book on this, of course. In 1836, a young or a 9-year-old prisoner girl named Cynthia Ann Parker was kidnapped during the Comanche raid to North Texas. She was strapped onto the back of a horse and taken north back to the plains where the powerful American Indian tribe lived. Now, back in the day, the Indians, they would scoop up women and children, take them back to their camps, and bring them into the tribe. I know before we talked about some tribes, right, David?
Right.
Did not take, they wanted to keep their bloodline pure, and they did not take other people into the tribe, no matter who they were. So you got killed off, but these didn't. So the story of Cynthia Ann Parker and her son, Chief Quanah Parker, is told by blah, blah, blah. You're going to skip that. Okay. Gwenny's fresh, interesting tale of the Comanche story. Integrated role in preventing and opening up the American West to white settlers. Yes, that's what we're going for. If you go back through Comanche history, you will see that there were ones who stopped the Spanish from coming north, he explains. Why did the French stop coming from Louisiana? Comanches. Here's why. The West Coast and the East Coast settled before the middle of the country. Here's why. They were basically a 40-year wait before you could develop the state of Texas, or before the Plains states could develop. Yes, and we are gonna talk a little bit about that, and it's called the story of Plum Creek. If you haven't heard of that, we're gonna touch on that a bit. It says, I grew up in Texas. This talks about the guy. On what raid was Parker Fort was like. The Indians did go, and just have to be Indians, meaning whites. The automatic thing in battle is that the adult males would be killed, and that was automatic. And that was one of the reasons the Indians fought to death. The white men were astonished by it, and they were assumed that they would be killed. Small children were killed. Very small children were killed. A lot of children. And saying the 3 to 10 range were often taken captive. The women were often raped and often killed. These people were vicious. And of all the people in those settlements back in the years, the Comanche raid knew that the Comanche raid meant, and it was interesting kind of moral question of the historian. These people were ruthless. Put it to, and grizzly practice. Oh yeah. Well, white man didn't do any favors to him either. So, let's see, we'll skip over this. Oh, the Comanches were warlike. They nearly exterminated the Apaches. If you know, the Comanches would look back in history as the Goths and the Vikings, and they're comparing this to the Europeans. The Comanches were like the Spartans because of their incredible military mastery, which derived from the horse. They were the prototype horse tribe, the tribe that could do more with the horse than any of the other tribe could. Because of that, it was a military community, and their way of life was supplanted by the new way of life, which mainly had to do with war. So pretty much they hunted buffalo and started war. And they were amazingly stripped down in what they did have a social organization or religious organization. They did weave baskets. They did have a very stripped down culture. So within the culture, the boys learned to hunt and ride at a very early age, and they would become warrior in the mid-teens. Well, you know, I looked for some Comanche mythology or myths and legends, and I could not find any. So that tells you they weren't concentrated on that. How the slaughter of 31 million buffalo between 1868 and 1861 contributed to the downfall of Comanches. Yes, that was their food. Their lives were built on two things, really. It was war and buffalo. All of the Plains Indians, once they got a horse from the Spanish, buffalo hunting became easier for them. It was their way of life. The buffalo hunting began as a simple market exercise. Hunters figured out that they could get $3.50 a hide. So they go out and kill a buffalo for $3.50. Wow. Then they figured out they could ship the hides east on the new railroads. And they also figured out the buffaloes were not smart enough to realize that if a buffalo next to the buffalo dropped, that there was something wrong. The buffalo had to see the source of the danger. So you'd have to see these people who would kill 3,500 buffalo in 28 days. It occurred to the generals in the West, specifically Phillips and Sheridan, William Sherman, that by allowing the buffalo to be destroyed, they were creating the most effective way to destroy the Indians. And Sheridan had a famous quote. He said, "You kill the buffalo, you destroy the Indians commissary." So it became political at the end. Yes, Let's kill all the buffaloes. And then it's the end of the Plains Indians, because there is no Plains Indian without a buffalo. So isn't that a sad way to look at it? And there you go. There's Mr. Buffalo, if you haven't seen one up close. And since we're on the buffalo, Linda, do you want to talk about the buffalo you were telling me about?
Yeah, I can do that, Robert. So I came to my attention recently. I follow a young lady on TikTok, Stephanie Big Eagle, and she's Lakota, and she's been doing a lot of videos lately on the white buffalo. And I didn't realize that, I knew one had been born, but I didn't realize that it had been happening like pretty much every year since 1994. So the Lakota believe, and this is coming from she had Chief Arval Looking Horse on her page, and he's the chief of the Lakota Nation, 19th generation keeper of the sacred pipe, which was delivered by the white buffalo calf woman. Let me say this correctly.
Yes.
And when she came, it was as a blessing and a warning. And what happened a long time ago was there were great changes that came upon the earth, and the earth and the climate had changed. And then he said that the elders say that there was a great teaching in the old days, when they disrespected all way of life and all the animals disappeared. And when this happened, the white buffalo calf woman came, and her blessing and warning was that great changes would be coming upon the earth and with the climate. And when the animals start showing you their sacred color, there's been so many, she had so many pictures of animals, like a giraffe, an alligator, a peacock. I mean, animals I've never seen white before have been being born. Okay. But the story that happened was that two scouts, their legend is that two scouts went out, and a woman appeared coming across the mountain, and she had long black hair. She had a buckskin dress on. And when she came upon them, she said, one of you has good thoughts and one of you has bad thoughts. And after she said that, she told the one with the bad thoughts to come to her. And when he did, a cloud came around him. And when the cloud disappeared, he was left as a skeleton. And the scout that had the good thoughts was shocked. So she told him, go back and tell your people, because tomorrow I'll be bringing a bundle and I want you to be prepared. Okay. So she brought the bundle back the next day, and as she came across the mountain, she was singing. And when she got to them, she left them 7 ceremonies. And the 7 ceremonies, let's see, had to do with the sweat lodge and purification ceremony, a naming ceremony, child naming, the healing ceremony, making relatives or the adoption ceremony, the marriage ceremony, the vision quest, and the 7th was the Sundance ceremony, the people's ceremony for all of the nation. And so when she left, she went to the west, and as she left, she started to tumble. And when she tumbled each time, the first time she became a black calf, and then she tumbled again as a red calf, then a yellow calf. And the last time before she went over the mountain, or over the hill, she was the white buffalo calf woman. And it says that when she returns, she will be the white buffalo calf, which you see. And what's going to be needed is spiritual unity among all people. It must happen with their hearts and their minds. And if it doesn't, then these great changes which are coming are going to, severely affect us and cause a lot of things to happen to the world. So the message is we all need to, all nations, all peoples, and we've been given warnings since 1994 now. So we've had quite a long time to prepare. So now is the time. I mean, like 11:59, we're past the 11th hour, y'all. Yeah. So.
That is so true. Now we did a show, and you guys can go back, and I did I think I did a short on it. We read 3 or 4 stories about the white buffalo calf woman. oh, what? Probably six, eight, maybe probably it was one of our first shows or so. Probably
It's
maybe
been
5 or
about
6
6
shows.
or 8 months ago. Yeah, because yeah.
Yeah, it was a while ago. And yeah, we read the whole story on it. It was very interesting. There was 2 or 3 different stories. I think we read two of them at least. And yet they were very similar, just what you said, but I didn't want to stop you because people want to hear fresh too. And it's good because it's something very interesting. And it's apparently it's true. I mean, they still have the pipe. And they learned the ceremonies, and then we studied the Sundance ceremony. I think we did the where they do the dance. I don't know. It was a long dance. We did a whole show on that too. But
Oh yeah, it's several days long. The
Yes.
Sundance.
yes,
Yeah. That's when you get pierced and you have to hang, and yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, we did a whole bunch on that.
Chief
And
Arval Looking Horse just did this interview when this new calf was born to reiterate the message once again.
Please lean closer to your microphone.
I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
can't hear me?
No,
Yeah,
you
you're
got it real
very
low. I couldn't
Okay.
hear you. I had to interrupt. I couldn't hear you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, Chief Arval Looking Horse just gave this interview when this new calf was born to reiterate the message and to let people know he is the keeper of this pipe. And he told the story on her page, like exactly like they tell it to their children and their ancestors. So it's really, I mean, he was very critical that she came with a warning and a message, and we're asking everyone to please start coming together. It's time. Yeah.
that is so true. Very true. Very true. And that's what I remember we did the Crazy Horse thing a few weeks ago, and his message was, there was going to be 3 wars, and after the third one, everybody, the white man, the red man, the yellow man, and the black man sit under the tree united.
Yes.
So interesting thought, people. Got to make it to that part. So anyway, back to my deal here. We're talking about the Comanches. We got to the buffalo, but I had to stop for that because there's Quanah Parker. He was quite the famous guy. Tough as nails, I tell you. Here is a typical, Indian, Comanche Indian. He's got his horse, his spear, shield, decked out in leather. They were all about the horse. They were super fierce horsemen. They could ride their horse and shoot arrows underneath its neck while it was running. So if you can see that, they paint their horses up with symbols. They were a scary bunch, and they didn't take prisoners. Here they are again, charging. This is like the ones you see in the Western movies with their headdresses on and all of that, going for. Okay, now here we go. This was interesting. This is the Comanche territory that they held. A huge chunk of land, part of Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, or Kansas. I mean, it was just a huge territory, and it actually stretched even farther than that. Let's see. I'm going to skip over this one for a minute, and I'll go to this. This is a picture of a good chunk of the territory they had. You can see it went all the way, basically the whole plains, all the way up into Canada. This whole thing was, devoured by these people in some way, shape, or form. They made treaties with the other nations, and it covered a lot. And I'll just read a little bit of this. While these people hailed from many different ancestries, spoke many unrelated languages, and frequently warred against one another, they were connected by a simple fact that they were called Great Plains, their home, depending on the same delicate ecosystem for survival and sustenance. As you discovered in the article Pirates on the Seas of Grass, it is difficult to convey the sheer mind-boggling vastness of the steep culture, both in space and time. Much like the plains of Central Asia, and the North American prairies extended for thousands of miles, stretching from Texas all the way up to Saskatchewan, from the plateaus of Colorado to the woods of Missouri. And that's, the plains is where the buffalo roam. wherever they roamed, that was their area. The flat grassland could be crossed easily on foot, and prior to the 1700s, they contained sacredly a single town or road. Herds of bison vastly outnumbered humans, who lived much as their predecessors had for more than 30,000 years, ever since the melting of the Ice Age snows had opened up these limitless lands and hunting grounds. Okay. And it goes on, all the prairie nations, the Comanche people, whose empire of Comanchera spanned from Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, and even New Mexico. The Comanche came from humble beginnings around 1000 CE, then began to split off from a great nation known today as the Uto-Aztecian people, whose original homeland probably lay somewhere in the southern Great Plains, possibly reaching all the way down to Central America. Across 500 years, from the thousands to 1500s, the ancestral Uto-Aztecian people gradually split off into 4 major groups. Okay, and as you can see, there's the Iroquois, the Muskegon. There's smaller branches down here. The Athabascans, the Utah Aztecians. They took up most of it. You can barely see some of these, but nonetheless, there's a bunch of them. Okay, for these Utah I can't say the word, and the Shoshones traveled north to Seattle and the Great Basin of Nevada, Oregon, and Utah. The second branch of Aztecs pushed down into central Mexico, where they founded their own great empire. The third branch, known today as the Utes, migrated into Utah and New Mexico, where they built their reputation as expert traders. Okay, now just imagine that the United States is just forming here. We're just moving in. The Spanish have been here for a while now, and the Indians have had horses for probably at this point at least 100 years or better, or yeah, close to over 100 years. They've had horses, and this talks about. I'm going to read a little bit of this, and then I worked for you guys. I found a really old book that talks about the Plum Creek disaster. Okay, with the Battle of Plum Creek in the 1840s as an aftermath, the power of the Southern Comanche bands in Texas was shattered. Plum Creek was the second of 3 disasters for the Comanche that year. The battle was preceded by the largest, deepest Comanche raid that Texas have ever endured, carrying all the way to Linville on the Magatorga Bay. The origin of this raid was the Council House fight in San Antonio in March 1840. This fight happened at a peace talk with 12 Comanche chiefs and their families and warriors. The Comanche were supposed to bring in all the white captives, but they brought only one horribly mutilated white girl. When the fight was over, all 12 Comanche chiefs were dead, as well as 20 others. In a rage, the Comanche tortured to death 13 of their white captives, but plotted further revenge. Soon in August 1840, the chief Buffalo Hump assembled a huge band of Comanches and allies numbering up to 1,000 warriors in the high plains. He headed south stealthily, but not to San Antonio. On August 6th, Buffalo Hump warriors arrived at surrounded Victoria, killing and rampaging along the way. John Lynn, an early settler and entrepreneur, was at Victoria with about 50 other men when the Comanche appeared. The Comanche never entered Victoria, but camped in a vicinity, contrary to their usual hit and run tactics. 2 days later, the Comanche moved to Linville on the coast. Most of the residents of Linville survived by taking to a schooner in the harbor. The Comanche ransacked the town and discovered a warehouse containing women's hats and umbrellas. They were fascinated with these articles of feminine finery and wore them all the way to battle at Plum Creek. Okay, the Comanche had accumulated a herd of about 2,000 stolen horses and other booty and began to move slowly into their homeland in West Texas. By this time, the Texans were aroused and mobilizing about 120 Texans from Victoria and Querétaro under Captain Zumwalt engaged the rear of the Comanche column, headed a group of Texas frontiersmen, and a Republic of Texas Army soldiers was assembling at Plum Creek near Lockhart to intercept the Comanche. Buffalo Hump was undone by the excessive booty that he refused to abandon. When the Texans attacked on August 12th, the stolen horses stampeded and took the Comanche with them. A running battle went on for 15 miles. At the end, some 80 Comanche bodies were left in the wake of the stampede. Only one Texan was killed, although the Comanche were able to execute some of the women captives that they had taken. Buffalo Hump and most of the Comanche escaped without their prized horses. They did get to keep the hats and umbrellas. The Tatanka scouts, who had run on foot for 30 miles to be in the battle at Plum Creek against their hated Comanche enemies, celebrated that night by roasting and eating parts of dead Comanche. But the Comanche's punishment was not over. The president of the Republic, whatever his name is, I'm going to mispronounce it. The president of the Republic of Texas decided the Comanche must be taught a lesson, and on September 40th, 1840, a company of 63 Texans and 16 Lipan scouts headed west, seeking the Comanche homeland about halfway to Santa Fe, farther west than Anglo-Texan company had ever ventured. The Lipan scouts discovered a large Comanche village. Now remember, the Comanche hated Mexicans, and the Mexicans were leaving, and the Texans were coming in. People were migrating. The Comanches cured what was very lax. Their security was very lax because they assumed that no Anglos would ever dare to penetrate their retreat. The Texans and Lipan attack caught the Comanche by complete surprise. This was a third Comanche disaster in 1840. As a result, the Southern Comanche bands were no longer a mortal threat to Texas, and Comanche learned that their Comanchero home ground was no longer inviolate to Texan reprise. Okay, so we're going to go from there. Okay, this is the Comanche migration. I couldn't get a good picture of this really, but okay, so here you go. This little chunk up here is what they started out with. This is Comanche territory because they're on foot in the 1600s. And then they migrated down, and as they got horses, they assimilated this whole area because they had horses. See here, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, so by the 1800s, they had the whole area, all because of the horse. And this is where, in the end, this is where they put the prisoners of war. So this is from December 15th, 1905. So the Apache's got a chunk of land here. I don't know who these guys are. The Comanche's got this little chunk over here. So all that land, and now they're just in this little bitty area because they're on a reservation. Okay, this is the thing at Plum Creek. This is a rendering of a drawing or whatever where they got all their fancy goods. And here's the soldiers, a rendering of the soldiers charging at the Comanches. This here comes from an old book, a really old book. And this is a drawing of what they had. They put on the hats, they had the umbrellas. The Indians were dancing around with their spoils after they raided the town, which was quite the fascinating thing because they really ransacked the town. Okay, this is what I found in this book. This book was from the early 1800s, and so it's got a good recollection. Great Comanche invasion attack on Victoria. Not until the summer of 1840 had the unfriendly Indians never made a regular invasion of white settlements in Texas. The settlers had been constantly harassed by small bands, so they would go in and just attack and then steal a few things, and that's the way they did things. They harassed by the marauding Indians, stole horses, killed cattle, and frequently killed and scalped such settlers, and were caught out from home and were unprepared for the resistance. At this time, there were about a few settlements between Guadalupe and the Colorado River, and in fact, the entire country west of the Colorado River, extending to the Rio Grande and down to the coast, with the exception of San Antonio, Gonzales, and a few other small towns, was one vast expanse of uninhabited country and offered an ease aggression to the settlements for the savages. In all this well-prepared and equipped invasion early in August 1840, in the light of the moon, an army very variously estimated at some 500 to 1,000 Indian warriors, mostly Comanche, besides a few squaws and old men, passed southward over the territory to settlements near the coast, committing occasional murders on their route. It was on the afternoon of the 6th of August that this entire body of fiendish savages, thirsting to avenge their sad fate of their fallen chiefs who fell in the fight at San Antonio, which we just mentioned, known as the Council House fight, suddenly came upon the town of Victoria, dealing death and destruction upon every hand. The attack was totally unexpected, and the citizens wholly unprepared to resist such a formidable force. And the concentration and confusion which prevailed can better be imagined than described. Several persons were killed and wounded. Among those who lost their lives in defense of their terror-stricken inhabitants of the little town of Victoria was Dr. Gray. The names of the balance who fell at the hands of the savages we do not remember. Those who were not killed were only saved by barricading themselves in such houses as offered shelter or protection. After having driven the citizens in their forted houses, the Indians withdrew from the town, carrying with them all the horses and mules which they could find in and around town, numbering between 2,000 and 3,000 head, and camped that night. You imagine raiding the town and getting 2,000 to 3,000 horses. Now that's spoils of war. From the town, carrying all the horses and mules which they could find in the town and around, numbering between 2,000 and 3,000 head, and camped the night with a few miles of Victoria, no doubt gloating over their successful raid upon the town and rejoicing over the large amount of property captured. They conceived the bold idea and surprising and sacking the town of Linville after murdering its inhabitants. Flushed with victory and several $1,000s worth of horses and mules, they all once proceeded on their way to the little seaport town of Linville, situated some 50 miles from Victoria. In their line of march, they came upon Miss Crosby and child, both of whom were captured and taken prisoners. Early in the morning of August 8th, some few of the inhabitants of Linville observed in the distance a perfect cloud of dust caused, as they supposed, by a vast cabalada of horses being brought in from Mexico for trading purposes. By throwing themselves on the sides of their horses and riding in this way, the Indians had completely concealed themselves from the vision of the unsuspecting denizens of the village. Imagine their concentration on the utterly dismay when 1,000 red savages, suddenly rising in their saddles, dashed upon the defenseless town when many of the inhabitants were fast asleep. The alarm was given as soon as the discovery was made. Resistance was not a thought of. Panic-stricken men, women, and children, young and old, rushed for the boats which were anchored nearby in the shallow water. The scene amid the confusion which prevailed was one never to be forgotten by the survivors of that terror-stricken people. The war whoop of the wild Comanches commingled with the screaming of women, the crying of children, and the groans of dying and wounded, almost beggars description. The bloodthirsty savages pursued the inhabitants into the water and captured and killed several of the fleeing, terrified populace. Among the number who met their death between the shores and the boats was Captain H.O. Watts, collector of customs. His young bride was captured in the water, dragged back to the shore, and made a captive. Several Negroes were captured and killed. Most of the inhabitants reached the boats and, pulling out to sea, escaped the tomahawk and scalping knife. All who failed to reach the boats were either carried away captive or ruthlessly killed by the Indians. The little town was usually well supplied with merchandise, and the Indians sacked all the stores and private houses, improving it while passing over the divide between the Guadalupe and the Electric Rivers at 12 o'clock on about 10th of August. He crossed the trail made by the Indians on their way down to Victoria and Linville. Although driven an oxen team, he made 30 miles in 12 hours. So eager was to communicate with the, I skipped a page here somewhere. The morning after crossing the trail of the town, LaGrange, besides the gallant old Indian fighter, Colonel Ed Burkston. The story was quickly told in a few moments. Burlston was mounted on his favorite war horse and ready to set out to organize a force to meet the enemy. The time we were mounted, a man was in sight, his horse running rapidly, a paper in his hand, fluttered in the breeze. The expressman presented the paper, which read about as follows: General, the Indians have sacked and burned the town of Linville, carried off several prisoners. We made a draw fight with them as Casablanca. Oh, that Casablanca, isn't that a movie? Could not stop them. We want to fight before they get there to the mountains, and we have sent expressmen up to Guadalupe. Signed, Ben McCulloch. It seems that a few companies had hastily rallied. I don't know if I skipped the page here, but they ransacked that town really bad. Everybody went out to a big boat in the harbor and they waited it out. The Indians ransacked the town. They burned every building. They took all the loot and all the horses and headed off into the distance. So now you got this general and he's organizing a party to go get him. It seems that a few companies had hastily rallied from the Gonzales, Guadalupe, and La Vaca settlements and had engaged the Indians on their retreat. But the superior number and latter caused the Texans to withdraw. Ben McCulloch, however, was not one, as will be seen later on, to permit the wily savages to swoop down upon our people with the tomahawk and scalping knife, and they stand by and see them quietly retreat to the mountain homes without giving them battle. He immediately set out for Gonzales, whipped around the enemy, and joined Captain Matthew, Old Paint Cadwell, who was in charge of the company. 37 men, while Captain Ward and Bird each commanded a small company. The entire force numbering some 80 or 90 all told. These three companies camped at Plum Creek on the 9th of the 11th, and beginning the place of the rendezvous agreed upon by the leaders and the respective settlements to intercept the enemy. The Reverend Mr. Morrell, in speaking of the movements of himself and Colonel Burlston, after receiving the dispatch from McCulloch, says, we made our way to the Colorado Valley as rapidly as we could to Bastrop and notify everyone as we went. Okay. So it gets really interesting here. They caught the Indians. General, the Indians have sacked and burned the town. Oh, I think I read that part already. Okay, called a retreat. Okay, intercept them on goods on Plum Creek, 20 miles below Austin. So you all know where Austin, Texas is. It's stated above on the night of the 11th, and three companies that had gone into camp on Plum Creek and were keeping a sharp lookout for an enemy. Early in the morning on the 12th, Cadwell was informed by his spies that the Indians were approaching within sight. Up to this time, Colonel Burstwell and his 100 Texans and 13 Tatanka Indians under their gallant old chief, Palcidio, had not yet arrived at the ground, but Old Paint was there, and wherever he was found in close proximity to Indians, there was sure to be a fight. In matter, not how much the latter outnumbered him. Old Texans were assembled together, living over the events of the early history of Texas, not unfrequently asked each other the question, do you remember Old Paint's speech at the Battle of Plum Creek? In order that the few but impressive and inspiring words of the grand old warrior may not be forgotten, we reproduce them here as nearly as we can. He said, boys, the Indians outnumber about 1 to 1,000. They have our women and children, captives. We are only 87 strong, but I believe we can whip the hell out of them. What shall we do, boys? Shall we fight? It is useless to say that the answer all along the line was yes. Yes, fight. On the previous evening, however, Felix Houston, general of the militia, had arrived upon the ground and, being senior officer, was given the command. While the plan of attack was being arranged, Colonel Ed Burlston came up with his forces, and the men were soon thrown into the line. The Indians were not marching across the prairie within full view. It must be been a novel sight to see 1,000 red warriors with their vast calabarro of horses and mules, gorgeously arrayed in the goods pillared from the Linville as they passed within full view or review of the Texans. There were too many of the old Indian fighters, however, upon the ground for this imposing band of savage warriors to create terror in the ranks of the little Texas army of 200. No sooner had Burleston arrived with his forces of the Colorado supplement by Pexito and his Tatanka Indians that he was ordered to command the right wing. Captain Matthew Cadwell, the left, while Moore had the brother of the venerable General William P. Old Gotcha Hardman was to bring up the rear. The Indians were at once thrown into line of battle by their gallant chief who led the invading host. The enemy says that Reverend Z.N. Morrill, from whom we again quote, was disposed to keep at a distance and delay the fight in order that the packed mules might be driven ahead with the spoils. During his delay, several of their chiefs performed some daring feats according to the previous understanding of our men that waited for. Yeah, so I think I was listening to this, I read it earlier, that the Indians were making mockery of them. They just rode right up to the bunch because there were so many of the Indians. They just didn't care. They were like, there's only a few of them. The Indians in the retreat to get beyond the timber before the general charge was made. One of these daring chiefs attracted my attention, especially. He was riding a very fine horse held in by a fine American bridle with a red ribbon 8 or 10 feet long tied to the tail of the horse. He was dressed in elegant style from the goods stolen at the Linville town, with a high top silk hat, fine pair of boots, and leather gloves, an elegant broadcloth coat, in part before, with brass buttons shining brightly up and down his back. When he first made his appearance, he was carrying a large umbrella stretched. This Indian and others would charge towards us and shoot their arrows, then wheel and run away, doing no damage. This was done several times in range of some of our guns. Soon the discovery was made that he wore a shield, and although our men took good aim, the balls glanced. An old Texan living on the Lavaca asked me to hold his horse, and getting as near as the place where they wheeled as was safe, waited patiently till they came. And as the Indians checked his horse and the shield flew up, he fired and brought him to the ground. Several had fallen before, but without checking their demonstrations. Now, although some of them had lost their lives in carrying him away, yet they did not cease their efforts till he was carried to the rear. General Houston, we know who General Houston is, who had caused the delay in making the attack and whose men were now suffering under the constant fire of the enemy, whilst the chiefs were performing their wonderful feats, was admonished by the gallant Ben McCulloch that was not the way to fight Indians. Whereupon Houston ordered an immediate charge. The heroic little band of 200 fired with the zeal of their cause and burning with to avenge their sad fate of those who had fallen beneath the tomahawk and the scalping knife in Victoria and Linville, now dashed forward under their respective leaders with a wild yell, which fairly made the weakening ring. In the midst of the hottest part of the conflict could be seen the brave old Pacito, the ever faithful friend of the whites, dealing death upon every hand, while the arrows and the balls of the enemy were flying thick and fast around him. Before going into the fight, he had taken the precaution to tie a white rag around his arm in order. So I read somewhere else that when these guys went into battle, the Texans, they howled like wolves. So you got 200 guys out there howling like a wolf, woo, as they attacked. So, anyway, there we go. In the heat of the battle, he might not have mistaken for the enemy. The Indians could not long withstand the furious attack of the determined Texans, and Rouse soon became general. It was a running fight for 12 or 15 miles. The pack animals and loose horses were abandoned, and the fight was ensued by each Indian only looked after taking care of his own scalp. Ben and Henry McCulloch, after Miller and C.C. DeWitt, pursued a squad of 5 Indians, killing all of them before they abandoned the chase. John Henry Brown, now our Colonel John Henry Brown of Dallas, Texas, crowned himself with the honor of slaying in a hand-to-hand engagement the second chief in the command, who wore a buffalo head with polished horns for a cap. General Houston estimated that they killed from 50 to 80 Indians during the engagement and captured several hundred horses and mules with packs and baggage, while the Texans had none killed and only a few wounded. Among the latter were Dr. Swetzer and Reed. Dr. Swetzer had his right arm pinned to his body with an arrow and was being hostily pursued by several Indians when he was rescued from death by a gallant Henry McCulloch. Reed, who was riding a very spirited animal and was one of the last to abandon the chase, seeing an Indian about to let an arrow fly at him, threw himself flat on his horse's neck, but too late to avoid the missile. The arrow penetrated his body and was with great difficulty withdrawn. Reed, however, recovered from his wound. Before the retreat, the Indians killed Miss Crosby, who will be remembered, was captured by them in Victoria and Linville. Her body was found near that of a dead Negro. Miss Watts was shot in the breast with an arrow and was found soon afterwards by Reverend Mr. Morrell, whose language we quote. Just as the retreat commenced, I heard the scream of a female voice in a bunch of bushes close by. Approaching the spot, I discovered a lady endeavoring to pull an arrow out that was lodged firmly in her breast. This proved to be Mrs. Watts, whose husband was killed in Linville. Dr. Brown of Gonzales was at once summoned to the spot. And there you go. That's as far as I got with that. But you guys can go look it up. Look up the Battle of Plum Creek. It was very interesting. It was one of the last great battles. It kind of really drove home the fact that the white man was coming and they had no chance to win. And they had to buckle down after that. Here's a little bit I found that really reminds you of what it was like to be out there. Okay, 70 years ago, when some of the events here recounted took place, Indians were Indians, and the plains were plains indeed. Those plains stretched out in limitless. Now, just use your imagination with this. Close your eyes and imagine this as you go. Those plains stretched out in limitless rolling swells of prairie until they met the blue sky that on every hand bent down to touch them. In spring, brightly green and spangled with wildflowers. By midsummer, this prairie had grown sere and yellow. Clumps of dark green cottonwoods marked the courses of the infrequent streams. And for the most of the year, the only note of color in the landscape, except the brilliant sky on the wide, level river bottoms sheltered by the enclosing hills. The Indians pitched their concealed conical skin lodges and lived their simple lives. If the camp were large and the lodges stood in a wide circle, but if only a few families were together, they were scattered along the stream. In the spring and early summer, the rivers swollen by melting snows were often deep and rapid, but a little later they shrank to a few narrow trickles running over a bed of sand, and sometimes the water sank wholly out of sight. The animals of the prairie and the roots and berries that grew on the bottoms and on the upland gave the people their chief sustenance. In such surroundings, the boy, Whiskus, was born and grew up. The people that he knew were those of his own camp. Once a year, perhaps, for a few weeks, he saw a large population of great camp, but for the most part, half a dozen families of a tribe with the buffalo, the deer, the wolves, and the smaller animals and birds were the companions with whom he lived and from whom he learned life's lessons. The incidents of a very simple story are true. The life of those days and the teachings received by the boy or the girl who was put to take part in it have passed away and will not return. Okay, I think
That part is so true because so many people have lost their connection with nature and Mother Earth and so forth. So one could say that that's absolutely true.
Yeah. Okay, I think I got everything. All the pictures. I put together a lot of cool pictures here. And okay, and that was it. Woo! I can't believe I got all through that. And I didn't even lose my voice. Wow. I hope you all enjoyed that. Look, we got a whole bunch of people in. Let's see. Elderberry's in the house. Yes, he says, is Hawkeye here? Yes, he is. What, can't you see the screen? Michelle Can-Am Free, our love girl. We got Scotty Boys in the house. He's probably cracking a beer right about now. And we got Max G, Jackie J, Isby, Travis the Brick. And I hope I didn't miss anybody. We got Nina. Nina's in the house, and Isby, and and Lucky Smith's in the house. There you go. I knew Lucky would make it. He always likes these things, especially my beginning part. So there you go. Lucky, that long story was for you. Okay. I did my part. I'm good. I worked hard on that. Okay. David, you want to go, or Linda, you want to go? I don't care.
Let Linda go ahead and do.
All right. Okay. Linda, you're up. What are we talking about tonight? Can't hear a word you're saying.
You got to unmute, sweetie.
I muted it so I wouldn't be disturbing your wonderful storytelling.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So this week you wanted to talk about some herbal remedy type things, and I have wild lettuce, which you can see. And
hang on, I'm gonna blow up that picture for you. So there you go. Go ahead.
Wild lettuce, yeah. So wild lettuce is it's feminine. It's something that's like really useful right now. It's for the moon and water, and you can use it for sleeps, dreams, relaxation, love, and fertility. And it's also a wonderful pain medication. So the things that wild lettuce can do, it can help with coughs, asthma, urinary tract problems, trouble sleeping, restlessness, excitability in children, painful menstrual periods, excessive pain in your muscular or joint pains, poor circulation, and it's also it can be used pretty much like opium, basically. And it treats chronic pain. It's got other names. It's also known as bitter lettuce, opium lettuce, and Rakutu Karayumuso, which I believe is an Indian word. So let's see. I already went over that. It can be used for arthritis, asthma. It's also used for atherosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries. So it has a lot of different uses, and it's been around for a long time. It's used in Ayurvedic medicine with the Indians. They use it for basically all the same things that I just talked about. But another use for it that I use it for, it can also be used in rituals. The Native American Indians used it in rituals. It's a good herb for creating lucid dreaming states and for divination. So it can carefully direct higher energies and the invocation of a protective force around you. A lot of people use it in herbal potions, and you would just like say a quick prayer to the patron deity that you're trying to speak with, and ask them to give you true visions and the wisdom to discern between fanciful dreams and actual guidance in the dreams that they're giving you. Let's see. It's a mild sedative that may help you sleep. It has a reputation for leaning towards the frisky side of things as well. So if you're looking for some romance, maybe some wild lettuce might help you in that area. Others mark it as having the exact opposite effect, though, because it can make the brain a bit lazy. John Michael Greer cites it as being Luna and Leo, which also makes sense because it tends to amplify whatever ideas happen to wander into your mind. And he also points out that it was sacred to Men, the god of fertility in ancient Kim, which is Egypt. I do always try to buy organic, or actually you can find it outside in most woods. It grows. If you look it up and to see what it looks like, the plant itself, when you pop it open, it will have like a white sappy substance that comes outside of it. And in history, it was traditionally dried and smoked like opium. It was used for nervousness and a sedative. It's considered milder than opium, but just as dreamy. Lettuce opium was often used by the native North Americans who smoked the dried resin or sap obtained from the plant. They would cut off the flower heads, gather the sap that drained, and then let it air dry. This process was done repeatedly over a 2-week period by cutting a little off the top of the remaining stem each time. So the leaf does contain a milky juice, which is made up of lactucin and lactoserol and lactucic acid, a volatile oil, and mannite. It's got very high concentrations of nitrites in it, and its primary effects are mild narcotic and analgesic. So it also is a sedative that induces low alpha activity rather than a deep sleep, which is very similar to thorn apple, which thorn apple is also something you can use for asthma. So it's probably very similar to thorn apple. And in ritual use, the Northern Indian schools of Tantra have a popular and turning cleansing method known as Shank Prakshalana. This ritual is particularly well suited to the chemical makeup of opiates, and they use wild lettuce in that ritual that they do for cleansing. The Hopi also believe that the induced dream states from the wild lettuce contain more information about reality than the conscious waking state. So their emphasis on dreams is so great that dreams are recorded for their information content and discussed each day at breakfast. So lettuce opium will enhance the vividness of dreams when smoked prior to sleep. It is a good idea to keep a dream diary and review the contents at least 1 week. So let's see. More, yeah, the CG Jung wrote about it as well and said that more time should be spent on our third of our life that most of us void out, which is the dream time. No one who does not know himself can know others, and in each of us there is another whom we do not know. He speaks to us in dreams and tells us how differently he sees us from the way we see ourselves. When therefore we find ourselves in a different situation to which there is no solution, he can sometimes kindle a light that radically alters our attitude, the very attitude that led us into the difficult situation. So, and then it says, homeopathic medicines recommends that anyone suffering, if you're going to use it, have any kind of stomach disorder, especially ulcers, you should not ingest any form of lettuce. So lettuces, even domestic, contain a lettuce opium product that coats the stomach wall and reduces the digestive process, but it also represses the sex drive. So both ends of the spectrum here. Some say that it increases sex drive, some say it reduces sex drive. And then you got this one that says if you have ulcers, not to ingest the lettuce, but on the other hand, lettuce opium coats the stomach actually and helps reduce those issues. So you can use it for that. And it's also related to absinthe, which we know is not allowed in the United States anymore. So, but that's about it. Any questions that you have?
Oh my goodness. Did you see I put up those pictures?
Yes.
A wild lettuce.
It grows in the yard.
I don't know how many times I've kicked over plants like that, not knowing what they are, spraying them off with the pesticide stuff to kill them off, chopping them with the sickle down, thinking, what the kind of crap and plant is this? This is just an invasive species, not knowing that this is wild lettuce and it could be beneficial. I am killing the plants that could possibly save my life. Is this not? I am so glad that you brought this to my attention.
It is related to dandelion too. So what I do with it is I cook it. I cook it down until it's and with some water until I get a juice, and then I cheesecloth it and get that juice out, and then I cook it down again and get it a little thicker, and then I put it in a jar that's smaller than this one. Like I put it in a little jar. And I just, when I'm achy, like my joints are bothering me, or I have a bad headache, I just take a little spoon and get just a little out and eat it. And it works. It's
yeah. Well, it does. Okay. Now I don't know if anybody's got this book here. I think David, you got this book? I sent you this book. I bought a whole crap load of these books and I sent them out. Sorry, Linda, you were late to the party.
It's okay.
You just showed up like, a few months ago, and everybody was coming on. I was sending them this book, but if you get a chance, it's really cheap. I got it off of eBay. It was like $7-8 or something like that. It was just a real cheap book to get, but it's hardcover. It does have the prickly or the lettuce plant in here. If you can see that, it's got all these plants in there, describes them, tells you what you can do with them too. It tells you the uses, the habitat, range, identification, uses, and of course you can surf the web and find out a lot of other uses, but this is a very good book to get. It's a Reader's Digest, believe it or not. I would say that everybody should have one of those in their house for, Crystal Clear. Thank you for coming.
Another good one to have is this one right here. It's called the Modern Herbal Dispensatory.
Oh, yeah.
It has almost everything you could possibly think of in it. And then this one, which is the Alchemy of Herbs.
Ooh, I like that.
Got a lot of pictures. It tells you how to make tincture. It tells you each one how to prepare it and use it. It tells you how to make tinctures and balms and salves and anything that you want to make with it. It tells you how to make with it. But I would recommend. I got a backyard foraging book for the Eastern North Carolina. I would recommend that everybody get one of these books. Yeah.
Yes,
that has like all the pictures in it of the plants so that you can go out and identify them in your backyard, and make sure you get one that has the alternative lookalike so you don't slip up and grab the wrong thing. So
yeah, I got these last week. I think I mentioned them. Home remedies.
Yes.
And the Herbal Medic.
Yes.
Too. So this is another good one. It tells you the things to do. I'm sure it has lettuce stuff in here too, but it gives you, little bits and pieces here, and ideas and how to cook it up too. So, I imagine that most of these books tell you pretty much the same thing, but yeah, those are good ones to get yours. This is the time, people. I hate to say it and be but this is summer. This is when those plants are out. Don't wait till winter and then go, I think I'm going to go looking for lettuce. Well, because you're not going to find it. Don't go looking for the dandelions, in the winter, because they're not going to be out. Pick them now, dry them, pull the roots, dry them, and then you got all winter to play around with it.
Yes. Make a day of it. Go out in the woods and have fun.
Yeah, it's cheap, it's free. Go for a hike, pull some weeds. People will be thinking, wow, ain't that person really nice, pulling all those nice weeds for me. Doggone, I gotta hand it to you. How nice is that? He's pulling all my weeds. See? And you'll be saying, oh boy, they're just giving me all those weeds. Ain't that wonderful? But David, I was just gonna ask you, so what have you used any of those wild plants?
Oh yeah. And one of the things I was going to say is there's, if you don't have them in your yard, or you don't have access to a woods or whatever, but some of these things will grow on the side of the road in the ditches. Okay. Yes. But now here's the thing. And I pulled a lot of stuff from the sides of the road years ago. And I had a friend of mine who was a sure enough herbalist, and he said, don't pick within, like, hold your arms out. Mm-hmm. And to the edge of the road to where you should pick, because the contaminants and stuff that come out of cars, exhaust and so forth will have a tendency to hit that first 6 foot. So go down more into the ditch and maybe up if there's a fence or something on the right of way. Almost every road has a right of way, and it belongs to you because it's part of the county or city or whatever. But, you can't go up into somebody's property. But, with out here on my front, there's like a 15-foot
easement,
right? Yeah. And so the county owns the ditch. Well, anything that grows in the ditch on any road, you can pull over and take, but just avoid right along the edge of the highway. Okay, that's been the, by all means, if there's something growing, but if it's right next to the pavement, move away a little farther if you can. And if you do get it right on the side of a road, if it's a county road and ain't many people on it, chances are you're going to be okay versus a busier highway or something like that. But the other thing is, if you do pick it closer to the highway, or road, unless it's a dirt road, but just wash it thoroughly. That's all, to get any contaminants that might be sitting on the leaves. Clean it thoroughly before you do whatever it is that you do with it. Now, I got a question, Miss Linda. Did I miss it? I was listening. If it's dried leaves, can you make a tea?
Yes, you can.
And what would be the how much for a cup? We'll say. Is there any kind of grams, ounces, or
I usually just fill up one of the little teapot things. The ones that clamp together. Yeah, it's probably a couple of ounces. Yeah, I just pick the leaves and let them dry, and then crush them up usually. Or I mean I put them inside stuff and eat it too. So.
Yeah, well, some folks just but like I love raw asparagus, for example, and other people are like, "Ooh, what's that?" I love raw not zucchini. Well, yeah, raw zucchini ain't bad either, but I can't think of it now. But anyway, so to make a tea, so one of the things I want to remind folks that if you make your own tea or whatever, I've learned from some Chinese folks who run restaurants in this local area, and I was like, how come your tea is so good and everybody else's? Oh, white people, they boil water, they boil the tea, and then it kills the flavor of the tea. So here's the thing. If you boil water, bring it just to a boil. Yes. And let it cool down a little bit. You want it at about 185 degrees. You don't want it at 210, because that will literally scorch some of the things that are in the leaves of any kind of tea.
David, yeah.
And so that then you let it steep. So, but anyway, I know too many people.
I was going to tell you with the wild lettuce, even you don't want the water boiling, because it kills everything. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. You just want it just hot enough to be a little not drinkable, barely hot enough, and then let it steep in there before you drink it. Yeah.
Well, if you see bubbles coming off of the bottom of your pan, that's it. Turn it off, let it sit, let it cool down a little bit. And if you can put your pinky in it without it hurting, put your tea in.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So Crystal Clear says, does Linda have her own channel that I could get this information from?
I have my channel set up. I haven't done my videos yet. That's something I'm working on. And I'm getting now where I don't even think I'm going to worry about the outro and all that stuff. I'm just going to start sitting in front of the camera like this and talking. So,
well, yeah, just start,
I'm going to start picking an herb and just,
all that stuff comes second. You just got to get going. And then once it blooms, then you put the fun stuff and you get things going. You can add it and,
I can actually put my channel. I could put a link to my channel in the chat.
There you go. And everybody will run over there and subscribe. It's
right
good. But that's the thing, is just getting started. Don't be worried so much about, is it going to be exciting intros and outros or what? Just worry about doing the show. The rest you build it, they will come.
There you go. You are absolutely correct.
And then after you go do that, then you get your own little website and get like Namecheap or something. I got Namecheap, and then you start yourself a little website, all that kind of good stuff. Scotty Boy says something about he's got wild carrots outside too.
Yes.
Wild carrots. And Lucky Stone says, oh, yeah, asparagus will make your urine stink. It goes through it kind of like beets. You eat enough beets, you'll be peeing red.
Yep.
Yes. Lucky Stone has his own channel. He says the only thing a channel needs is videos. So true. He does a lot of shorts, and they're very good. Go out there and check them out. Shorts are fun. He does a little, lyrics he's been doing, some stories, just a walk and talk sometimes of, a little bit of make you think. Go over there, check him out, give him a thumbs up, subscribe. and listen to him walk and talk sometimes. He's got good train videos and some nature stuff. I really like it. So, you know, I try to check him out anytime I can. So
okay, I posted it under it's Dancing Deer Mojo. That's me, guys.
there you go. Dancing
There you
Deer
go.
Mojo.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else is it going to say? Oh, with all that, see, that's the thing. The weeds all around us, you know, are the potent stuff. Now, you know.
Oh, you know what? I
What?
got to go back. I got to go back.
Yeah.
I'm not a moderator with Dancing Deer.
Oh, okay.
Like, why is it turning blue?
But I don't know where I haven't.
No, it's
I
fine.
didn't.
I can go back.
No, if you're up there, I can see it, but I don't see no
just
dancing
I
deer.
just stuck it in at the bottom. So
Oh, Nicholas Burnett, yay!
I can go back to my to you on my regular channel.
Oh, I didn't see you on there, so I can't make you a moderator if I don't see you chatting. Anyway, either way. So, David.
I don't know why it didn't show up. I don't know why
No,
it didn't show up.
It probably chucked you because you didn't. You tried to post something.
Go. There's my channel.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, I want to add an addendum to what we were talking about. You know,
Yes.
there are things down here in South Georgia that sort of the broadleaves, the lettuces and things like that actually come out in the fall and will be here in early spring. And then as the weather starts to warm up, they die down and other grasses and things come up. So for everything, there is a season. Now, some of the better medicinals are literally weeds. And the only time you can really check, unless you know what they look like before they flower, what do the leaves look like? And now they've got this wonderful app that you can take a picture of something and within a minute, it will match it with something. So if you haven't started, then get ready because most of the spring stuff has already flowered down here. And so now further north, they're still got, you all just had snow recently. So your spring's still going to come and it's going to be shorter. But get out now. If you're in the northern climates, get out. Down here in the south, we're already out of certain seasons. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so, but our next season will be at the end of July and into August when the weeds start producing their flowers. Mm-hmm. Weeds will, versus other types will, bloom in the spring, all kinds of bulbs and stuff like that. But in the late summer and early fall, some of them may be as early as the end of July for us down here. But that they don't flower until the end of their season. And then they put out the seeds and all that kind of stuff. So you can look around and go, wait a minute, that's just a weed. I'm going to cut it, clip it, kick it, like you were saying. But that actually, if you wait a month, it might flower and bloom and you go, oh, wait a minute, I shouldn't have done that. That's actually a beneficial plant. So, but anyway, I want to put that out there though. So find out what latitude you're at. Yeah. And you can usually tell by the seeds that you plant, like it's already middle of May right now. And it's almost too late to plant some things in the garden because it'll be summertime in August before some of these things actually come in. So the same thing is true, like in the ditches and in my backyard and all there's elderberry blooming everywhere on the sides of the road. I mean, it's blooming everywhere. And if you can't find it, you're blind. I mean, because they're great big white flower sets, and if you don't have them in your yard or in your neighborhood, drive down a country road near a creek or something like that, and down in the ditches, the elderberry will be blooming. Now, it'll bloom later as you go north because of, temperate climates and so forth. But that's one thing that if you want to get some elderberry, and I've got some here that I bought from the store, general wellness and contains antioxidants. So it's free. All you gotta do is stop on the side of the road. Make sure there ain't no snakes, you know, but it's free when they put the berries out, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And elderberries grow around along the road a lot.
You say that
really
again?
Do. Elderberries grow along the road a lot.
Yes,
I don't know why, but they do.
And those certain areas and terrains, they like it a little wet, but not, you know, so wet. But a lot around here along the river in the ditches that get a lot of water that goes through, they're elderberry blooming everywhere. So the next other thing I wanted to mention.
Oh, so before you move on, elderberry, speaking of elderberry, says you want to get them, and this goes along with what you're saying, you want to get them, talking about the lettuce, while the lettuce is flowering, the top half of the plant is the most potent, mid to late summer. He also says you will probably see a lacta leaking from the leaves. That's that white mucusy stuff you were talking about, Linda. So there you go.
And one of the things though, but he's further north from where I'm at on the almost on the Florida line. And some of these things have already decided to quit. And so it's like some of these things are already gone. So, you know, for those of us in this area, you better get out there quick because it's warming up and it's the end of the season for us down here for some of these plants. Okay. But, you know, up around Atlanta and north and Chattanooga and, you know, further north, now they're just coming into the season. So it greatly depends on the temperature and et cetera.
I'm still waiting for some of those snow piles to melt.
Right. So, you know, there's also down here, I was surprised that I've, you know, at the end of the season that I've got a lot of St. John's wort. And it's something, you know, the people use for relaxing and you buy in the store and all this. Well, to have it where you just pick it, pluck it, and then make your tea, you can't get any better than that.
No. And that's good for like, isn't that for depression?
Yeah, it's supposed to be sort of like a mood elevator and whatever. But here's the thing. It's hard to tell what it is until August when it starts to bloom. It's really difficult. People chop it down and mow it and blah, blah, blah. But then in the early fall, it's like, oh, that's St. John's wort. So, but anyway, there are certain things that you might, you know, like the lettuce discussed, and thank you, Linda, for bringing us that. But also, you know, some elderberry that's out there now. And also, what did I just say about the St. John's wort?
Yeah.
And so those are something that like, wow, I won't have to take anything from the store if I get ready and find out what St. John's wort looks like now. Then when it comes time, I'm gonna go out and look for me some, you know, so because they do come in seasons. So anyway, you know, I wanted to put my 2 cents in on that. And a awesome 2-center, going back to your earlier discussion with Plains and the Comanche, where they say they didn't take women. But here's the thing, if a tribe didn't have enough women, they wouldn't kill them or scalp them or whatever. They took them home. Yeah. And so even those tribes that wouldn't allow whites in, they did. For the simple reason they were losing their population.
Yeah. Well, that's along with Quanah Parker. He was half, you know, that's why I started out with him. He was half from a white woman was his mother. And another neat thing I learned while I was reading all this stuff about him is the Comanche, but in the early years, they had, they were what, 60,000 strong. And then I forget what it was. After that, they had the sickness go through. And between the wars and stuff, once the sickness went through, they went from 60,000 to 6,000. And then after all the wars and everything, they were down to close to 1,000 to 1,500 people in the end.
Right.
It was like, which is really sad. And they surrendered. Their great empire was crushed by 1875, and they were all on reservation by that time. So, you know, in 1600 they started growing, and by 1875 they were done, which is sad. It's really sad.
It really is, you
Mhm.
know. So anyway, well, thank you for that.
Mhm. Yeah, it was a good plant. I like it. Like it says it, and I'm gonna look for that app on you know, that I can put on my phone. That I think that would be an awesome app to have.
Which
Take a
one?
picture.
It
The one,
works really good. Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
picture or whatever. And
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just take a good picture, or you know, as close up as you can of the leaves or the flower or whatever. And I mean, it's almost instant, where it would take me, you know, a while to try to figure out what something is. I got a mulberry tree growing right outside the house. I still don't know how it got there. But last year I was like, what the hell is it? One of my neighbors came by and they said, oh, let me take a picture of it. And I went, what? And they said, well, you know, that's a mulberry. And I said, damn, that ain't mulberry. It just looks like a weed. Well, I didn't cut it down,
Mhm.
and it just died back. And it's now over my head this spring. Yeah, I need to move it quick. But it's getting to the wrong time of year for that, as tall as it is. But it is a mulberry, because my big mulberry tree out there, they're the same leaves. And I don't know how it got here right outside the house, but you know, I thank you. You know.
I put the app, Scotty Boy says I put the app on my phone, supposed to tell you what kind it is. Yes, that's what we're talking about, Scotty Boy.
Picture this. That's the name of it. Picture
Pic-
this.
Picture this. Yeah.
12.7.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got
Awesome.
it's really good. I've used it a lot, and it's really spot on too. So
Okay, this is going to be a challenge for you. Crystal Clear says I probably have all these things in my forest here, just insane ticks in the woods. I'll walk along the roadside. Okay, well, what do you do? What do you do that you have naturally for ticks? What do you do for ticks?
well, my grandma always put kerosene around the bottoms of our pants legs. So we always just wore long clothing, and we put shoes on, like, and had our socks up over our pants, and I wear long sleeves. And so trying to think, there was something that you could spray. I'm trying to look it up, because I know lemongrass, like lemongrass, what they use in the citronella candles. You can use that, and eucalyptus. That's it. That's the one. I was trying to think of the name of it. Eucalyptus and turmeric. Eucalyptus, especially if you'll spray that, that deters their smell. They do not like the smell of eucalyptus. Yeah.
This is what we do in the swamp. You have your swamp clothes.
Yeah.
And when you get back to the house, you take them off at the door and do an immediate tick check. And, you know, and they stay on a hook by themselves, you know, and you can check your clothes, shake them out outside. But you don't spray you spray the clothes. And the basic rule of thumb is don't let anything hang out. Like if you've got a t-shirt that's loose or something like that, at least tuck it in and then spray around your waistband.
My grandma always put caps on her heads too. Like,
yep, because they will
our hair up and put it in and put like a ball cap or something on. Yeah.
And they will literally drop out of trees onto you. I mean, because I had one crawling across my shoulder one time, and I was like, where in the dickens did this thing come from? And then I saw this special that the ticks will make these great big balls of bugs up in the trees. And when the wind comes, and that they'll just scatter and just literally just, sometimes they'll go as high as half a mile up into the sky and get carried by the wind and then just dropped around. I mean, it's like, what? It's insanity. But anyway, yeah, spray your clothes and don't wash them. Don't put your clothes in the washing machine, because this will get on your clothes and eventually nothing will come near you. Nothing will come near you. Another thing is that if for skeeters or whatever, if you're out in the woods or even around your house, one of the things that you can do is make small smoke fires, this big around on the ground. I mean, you know, some leaves, a little bit of moss or something, and you want it to smoke. And just like bees in a hive or whatever, you smoke them out literally with pine needle smoke. But if you put a couple of small smoke fires around where you're at, think of a pyramid, a triangle, not pyramid, triangle, but 1, 2, 3, and you're in the middle, and the smoke will clear out the mosquitoes. And you don't have to buy any kind of special, herbicide or anything like that. And pine needles work really good because they smoke without flaming up. And if it flames up, just get your little squirt bottle or something just to put it out, and it'll plume up some more smoke. You want the smoke around. And after a while, I mean, even down here in the swamp, it'll just put a layer out, and the bugs just don't like it. Don't move away.
Yeah. Yep.
I do know my grandma kept eucalyptus though around the front doors and all that stuff because it does keep insects away. So, but I remember her spraying it in her hair too, because she would be smelling not a lot. She would just a light little, psh, which that's all it takes.
Yep, that's all it takes.
It doesn't take much.
Yep. Yep. Citronella. Elderberry says,
yeah.
Citronella. I heard somebody say the other day they took Dawn dishwashing liquid, and they wipe it on like a lotion before they go, and that's supposed to, keep them off too. They don't like that oiliness or that soapiness.
Yes.
They can't live in the soap.
Yep.
Yeah, but I gotta caution folks, if you use Dawn dish liquid on your skin, as a machinist, we used it because it would get off the grease and everything. If you didn't put oil or lanolin on your hands before you went to work, and got all greasy, within a week, your hands will become crusty and dry because Dawn is so good at taking the oil out. It will literally take the oil out of your hands. It'll hurt if you just use Dawn. So people who are very sensitive with their skins, you be very careful with Dawn. Do not put it on full-fledged. You might, it might be 1 drop for a cup of water, might be all that you need. So, I want to caution folks with that, because me and a lot of my friends, when Dawn first came out, we had to go through a period of, wait, you can only use a small drop of this, and you need to oil your hands right back up after using it, clean it, if you're using it full strength. But anyway.
Well, you got a story picked out so I can whip that up?
Yes, sitting here, I had 2 of them, and I decided to do this one instead.
Okay.
I don't think I've read this one. I mean, I've read it, but I don't think we've done it on air. So go to page 409.
Way at the bottom.
The Revenge of Blue Corn Ear Maiden.
Oh, I don't know.
You think I done this one?
I'm thinking I heard blue corn before.
Yeah, but this is her revenge.
Okay.
It's the Revenge of Blue Corn Maiden.
Okay, because I remember hearing Blue Corn Maiden before.
Yeah, it's been mentioned before. But,
okay. All right, I got it pulled up. We're good to go. Thank you, Linda. That was a really good one. Lettuce. I like that. I like that. Okay, here we go. And voila.
Get your books now, ladies and gentlemen. And start studying, because like I said, the weeds, there are a lot of weeds that come, that flower in the late summer and early fall. And it'll get you ready. Don't procrastinate. Oh, and one other thing. Linda was reading about that it's good for something, but it's not good for something. It's a poison or a snot or whatever. Now, there are a lot of things that has to do with how much you take of it. Like, for example, poke salad comes up with these big purple berries, and they're poisonous. But here's the thing: they're also good for the heart and circulation. But the trick is, you don't eat the seeds. You just kind of put them in and just squash them in the top of your mouth, get the juice out, spit the rest out. But 2 or 3 of those 3 times a month. They don't last long, but I've done it. I've taken it, and it won't kill you. But you know, if you take them and collect them and build and do them, but there are some people who have actually made jelly out of the juice. You don't let the seeds go in because the seeds are toxic, much like the seeds in apples are toxic.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, back to the story.
Yep.
I realize that I have forgotten more stuff about plants and things that I can remember.
We're gonna have a lot of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Revenge of Blue Corn Ear Maiden from the Hopi. A long time ago, 2 maidens lived in Noriabi. They were close friends and often ground corn at one another's houses. Their friendship ended abruptly, however, when they both fell in love with the same young man. One of them, Yellow Corn Ear Maiden, had supernatural powers, and she made up her mind to destroy her rival, Blue Corn Ear Maiden. Early one morning, the 2 girls carried their jugs to get water from Spider Spring, northeast of the village. On the way back, they came to a sand hill, and Yellow Corn Ear Maiden said, "Let's sit down and rest for a while." After a time, she said, "Let's play catch. You run down the hill and I'll throw something at you, and you throw it back." She drew from her bosom a pretty little wheel that gleamed with all the colors of the rainbow. When her friend reached the foot of the hill, Yellow Corn Ear Maiden threw the wheel at her. But it was so heavy that Blue Corn Ear Maiden collapsed on the ground when she caught it. When she stood up again, she was a coyote. Yellow Corn Ear Maiden laughed and said, "That's what you get for quarreling with me." She shooed the coyote away, took her own jug, and went back to the village. Sadly, the coyote climbed the hill and tried to pick up her jug, but without hands, she couldn't. She sat down and cried until evening. After dark, she tried to enter the village, but the dogs drove her away. She made a large circuit around the village and tried to go in from another side, but she was again driven away by the dogs. By this time, she was getting very hungry, so she went off to the west, hoping to find something to eat. It was the fall of the year, and the people were busy in the fields, working on their crops. Carefully, she crept up to one of the homemade shelters in which the farmers lived, found 2 roasted ears of corn that had been left on top, and ate them right up. She tried a 3rd time to enter the village, but when the dogs smelled her and drove her away, she knew she wouldn't be able to get home as long as she looked and smelled like a coyote. She wandered through the entire night until she arrived at a place which belonged to 2 Occoquan Kachinas who were hunting in the region. In their hut, she found plenty of baked rabbit meat and entrails and lots of rabbit skins. Starving, but also exhausted, she ate little meat and a bit of entrail, which she did not like very much. Since the 2 hunters had already eaten and left for the hunt, she decided to stay in their hut and rest all day. In the evening, the 2 hunters returned. With their keen eyes and ears, they knew even as they approached that something was wrong. One of them peeked in and whispered, "There is a coyote in our hut, and he's eaten some of our meat." He got his bow and arrows and was aiming at the intruder when the other one said, "No, let's try to capture him alive and take him home to our grandmother, Spider Woman." So they went in, but much to their surprise, they heard the coyote sob and saw tears trickling from its eyes. Even as they were touched by the sight, and one of them took a large piece of meat from his pouch, broke it in two, and gave a portion to the visitor, who ate it with relish. And then they decided to go back home that evening. They tied up the meat and the skins, and they also tied the feet of the coyote. Loading everything up upon their backs, they returned to the Kachina Gap, a short distance northwest of Oriabi. As soon as they arrived, they called the Spider Woman. "Grandmother, we have brought you an animal. Come and help us lift it off our backs." She was delighted with her present. And placed the coyote with the rabbit meat near the fireplace. Then the woman looked closely at the wretched animal and exclaimed, "Alas, that poor one! This is no coyote. Thankfully, you have not killed it. Where did you find it?" They told her how they had found and captured it in their hunting hut. She sent one of the men into the village after some tomaala, a potent plant. The other one she sent to the woods to fetch a few juniper branches. While they were gone, she boiled some water, and when the man with the tamala returned, she poured the water into a vessel and hooked one of the tamala's pods into the coyote's neck and another one into her back. She then plunged the animal into water and covered her with a piece of native cloth. Placing her hand upon the cover, Spider Woman took hold of the two hooks and kept twisting and turning them until she had pulled off the skin of the coyote. When she threw aside the cloth, there was Blue Corn Ear Maiden, still in her original clothes, her hair tied in whirls, just as it had been when she left the village. The woman asked how she had met this face, and the maiden told her the whole story. Spider Woman comforted her in saying, "That yellow corn ear maiden is bad, but you will have your revenge." At this point, the other hunter returned with the juniper branches. She took the maiden together with the branches and the water into another room and there bathed her, then gave her some corn, which the maiden ground into meal. The maiden stayed there for several days until Spider Woman told her that her mother was very sick with worry and that she should go home. But first, Spider Woman called together a number of Kachinas who lived nearby and told them all that had happened. "I want you to return her to her house," she said, and they were willing. She dressed the maiden in wonderful finery, put her hair into fresh whirls, and placed over her shoulders a new atu. She instructed her to have her father make bahos, prayer sticks, and a number of nakawakanwesas as prayer offerings to the leader of the Kachinas and the leader of the singing. Lastly, she gave her a plan to deal with Yellow Corn Ear Maiden. So off they set, the maiden walking in the rear of the line of Kachinas. At early dawn, the so-called white dawn, they arrived near the house of the village chief, where the Pongowi Kiva is at present situated. There they performed their first dance, singing while they danced. Those already stirring in the village rushed out to see the Kachinas dancing. Soon the news was whispered around through the whole village that the Kachinas had brought a maiden with them. And some soon recognized Blue Corn Ear Maiden and ran to the house of her parents. The latter was refused to believe the news, and 4 messengers had to be sent to convince them. When they finally went to the Kachinas, the procession had arrived at the dancing plaza in the center of the village. "So you have come," the mother said, and began to cry. She wanted to take her daughter with her, but the girl said, "Wait a little," and gave her father Spider Woman's instructions. The Kachinas continued their dancing with Mana, the female Kachinas, waiting by their side. When finally the father brought the prayer offerings, He gave one bajo to the leader, the other to his daughter. After the dancing was over, the daughter gave her prayer stick to the leader of the singing. The Nakawakoistas were distributed among the other Kachinas, and after the happy father had thanked them for bringing his child, they returned to their own homes. Blue Corn Ear Maiden rested at her parents for a day and a night, but early the next morning, she went to grind corn. And as she did, she sang a little song about her adventures. When Yellow Corn Ear Maiden heard her voice, she came rushing out to proclaim how delighted she was at her friend's return. Blue Corn Ear Maiden treated her cordially, just as Spider Woman had told her to. They ground corn together all day, just as they had done before. In the evening, they went after water again to the same spring where they had gotten water before. While they were filling their jugs, Yellow Corn Ear Maiden noticed that her friend was dipping her water with a peculiar little vessel, which Spider Woman had given her, and that the water which ran into the jug was very beautiful, glistening with the colors of the rainbow. She said to her friend, "What have you there? Let me see that little cup." "Yes, her too," her friend said, and that was a very fine cup, and the water tasted good from it too. Thereupon she drank from it and handed it to her friend, who also drank. Immediately she fell down and was turned into a bull snake. "There, you will remain on the ground forever," Blue Corn Ear Maiden said. "You tried once to destroy me, but it didn't work. No one will help restore you, though." She laughed, picked up her jug, and returned to the village. So the bull snake slithered away to begin its lifelong wandering. It was often hungry, but as it couldn't move very fast, it had to capture its prey by luring little rabbits and birds with its powerful, intoxicating breath. Yellow Corn Ear Maiden tried finally to return to her village, where she was killed by her own parents. They, of course, didn't know that the snake they had killed was their own daughter, but her soul was liberated to go to the skeleton house. Ever since then, some dead sorcerers will take the form of bull snakes and leave their graves still wound in the yucca leaves with which the corpse was tied up when laid away. If such a bull snake is killed, the soul of the sorcerer living in it is set free and can go to the skeleton house, just as Yellow Corn Ear Maiden did at last. Based on a version collected by Henry Voth in 1905. I don't think we've read this before.
I don't think you did that one before.
Yeah, so
Definitely not.
That was just interesting how, be patient, little one, just hang on. But it was interesting that she had drank from what I'm thinking of as a ladle, and didn't bother Blue Corn Maiden. But it turned her sister, or the other one, into a bull snake.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it begins. What time of night this is? It's the card time of night. What do we got? We got an ant. Is that an ant?
That's an ant. And I tried again, tonight. And it's interesting that the first one that came out was ant, number 32, and an upside down dolphin, which is number 40. So give me a sec. Let me look them up.
Huh.
But ant, I was like, I haven't pulled either one of these cards in a while.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
It's interesting to me that, thank goodness it's, something we haven't heard before.
Yeah, I like hearing new ones. Definitely new ones.
Not that the messages haven't been great. I just love the deer one,
Yeah. Well, they all have a thing. They always seem to fit what we're talking about.
Somehow, one way or another, you know.
Yeah, you know, and I
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you know, it's like I finished the night off with my stuff with a little kind of a good reading, because all the other stuff is always so violent. You know, the more I read about the Indians and stuff, they always have a violent ending. Go figure, right? And I think, oh yeah, but if that would ever happen to us, you know, here, for instance, an invading force, what would they do to us?
Right.
They would do the same thing.
And what would we do to them?
Oh yeah, we would put up a stink and whatever we could do, we'd do the same thing. And they would just steamroll us all. And next thing you know, there'd be a few of us and they'd say, oh, those poor people, we'll just put them on a little chunk of land, and, you know, we'll give them a little bit of food and we'll control them, and, you know, we'll never worry about them again. Did you know, I was listening to this today, and this is going to blow your mind. You know, we take things for granted so much. Yeah. But did you know that over 60,000 Indian homes on reservations do not have electricity?
Wow.
And this day and time, you know, you think, oh, well, you're talking about way back. No, I'm talking about now.
Right.
You know, I mean.
And the reason is, now down here in the South, if you go to the REA and you put down a deposit, they will put a line to you. If you're like me, I'm halfway down in the swamp here, and I got, you know, but they're committed to that. But Indian land ain't part of the United States. So they'll take the electricity up to the reservation, but it's up to the natives then to do everything else.
Yeah, to pay for the rest of it.
That's right. And so, you know, you do have to put a deposit down, you know, for folks down here in the lower 48 kind of thing. Yeah, it's sad. It really is.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't have heat either.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, they're living to this day very primitive. I did not realize that. It blew my mind when I found that out, that, you know, I'm like, wow, you know, in this day and age, we're so worried about other countries and those poor people over there losing their homes, or, you know, living and going without, that we're not even looking at our own people right here that don't even have electricity.
Right. And so so people have a gas stove so they can cook with and heat with.
Yep.
You know, the double thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, ant number 32 is patience. Oh, tiny ant, your patience grows like the sands of time. Can I learn to be like you, or is it too sublime? Ant can carry a leaf over hundreds of miles just to get it back to the anthill. Ants in Africa will strip a forest bare when its food is scarce, even if it takes them a year. Ant's medicine is the strategy of patience. Ant is a builder like beaver, is aggressive like badger, has stamina like elk, the scrutiny like mouse, and the giveaway like turkey. Every ant in an anthill is part of the ant group mind, as all the ants work for the queen ant and the hive. Self-sacrifice is a part of ant medicine. Greater than ants' other medicines, however, is patience. Ant people are active, community-minded folks who see the greater future needs of their town. Ant people are planners, like squirrel, and they are content to see their dreams being built a little at a time. In today's society, that is a rare quality. In the desert, one type of ant will burrow a conical hole with its apex at the bottom. This is actually an ant eater. It's not actually an ant, I don't believe, but as the sand crumbles, the prey eventually falls down in. There was a big one in one of the Star Wars movies where Luke and them and everything, they slid down in and there were jaws at the bottom. That's what
Yeah.
they based it on.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, but it takes patience. Patience does have its rewards. Ant people have a knowing about the sweet victory at the end of the line. There is never a concern about going without if they are late for the opening of a sale. If what they want is sold out, they are sure that something equal or of better quality is available. If you have ant medicine, you eat slowly and deliberately and are content in knowing that what is yours will come to you. This knowing is good medicine. It shows a trust in the universe to provide. If ant meandered into your spread today, it is time to show a little trust and patience in some life situation. You may have forgotten that you will always receive that which you need at the time you need it most. If not on the horizon or just around the next anthill, you may need to use some form of strategy. How can you put to use your power of creation until it arrives? Whatever it means to you at that time. Ant is working for the good. Ant is working for the good of the whole. Are you? If you are, be assured that the whole ants wants the same goodness for you and that it will be provided. Now, the next one is dolphin, number 40, upside down. So patience. Yeah, because there's a lot of, stuff going on right now and, forecasting this summer and so forth, and not trying to be some kind of, guru about it. But that, we don't need to get our, our knickers in a twist, because we just need to be patient. Things will work out one way or the other, and then we'll know which way to go. But anyway, dolphin is number 40, and its description is manna. Dolphin, breathe with me, the breath of the divine, manna of the universe, in oneness we entwine. Dolphin speaks to us of the breath of life, the only thing that humans cannot go without for more than a few minutes. We can live without water and food for days, but oxygen is the source of our sustenance. Within the breath, we encounter the rhythm of energy that all life emits. In changing the rate or rhythmic texture of our breath, we can tap into any other life form or creature. They want me to read that again. In changing the rate or rhythmic texture of our breath, we can tap into any other life form or creature. So just by inhaling slowly and exhaling, and this is a very easy way to connect with the divine energy coming from Great Spirit, as well as with your own personal rhythms. Dolphin is the keeper of the sacred breath of life and teaches us how to release emotions through dolphin breath. Dolphin creates rhythm, swimming through the water and breathing before submerging, then holding its breath for the duration of the underwater travel. As dolphin comes above water again, it blows its breath out in a manner of resembling the popping of a cork. We can use this same technique to pull the stopper on our tensions and create total relaxation. This is a good exercise to use before entering the silence. They want to read this again. As dolphin comes above the water, it blows its breath out. Pop, right? You can see it squirt up out of the top. Blows its breath out in a manner resembling the popping of a cork. We can use this same technique to pull the stopper on our tensions. You've had a bad day, stuff, it's been, pop it, release it like the breath, and create total relaxation. This is a good exercise to use before entering the silence. So if you want to meditate or you want to, ask dolphin to help you out. Manna is life force. Manna is present in every atom and is Great Spirit's essence. Dolphin teaches us how to use the life manna through our breath. It revitalizes each cell and organ and breaks the limits and dimensions of physical reality so that we may enter the dream time. There are a lot of things that before you go into meditation, that you do a breathing exercise to get your rhythm and to get your stuff down. So this is very good information, and the dimensions of physical reality so that we may enter the dream time. So if your breathing isn't rhythmic with your body, then it's going to be hard to, the way the energies will, could be contradictory. Dolphin was traveling the oceans one day as Grandmother Moon was weaving the patterns of the tides. Grandmother Moon asked Dolphin to learn her rhythms so that he could open his female side to her silvery light. Dolphin began to swim to the rhythm of her tide weaving and learned to breathe in a new way. As Dolphin continued to use this new rhythm, he entered the dream time. This reality was a new and different place from the seas that he had known. Dolphin came to discover underwater cities in the dream time and was given the gift of the primordial language, the tongue. This new language was the sound language that was brought by Spider Woman from the great Star Nation. Dolphin learned that all communication was pattern and rhythm, and that the new aspect of communication was sound. He carries this original pattern to this day. Dolphin returned to the ocean of the Great Mother and was very sad until Whale came by and told Dolphin that he could return to be a messenger to the dream time dwellers anytime he felt the rhythm and used the breath. Dolphin was given a new job. He became the carrier of messages of our progress. The Dreamtime dwellers were curious about the children of the earth and wanted us to grow to be at one with the Great Spirit. Dolphin was to be the link. Now, the card's upside down, so I'm going to finish reading the positive part, then the contrary. If Dolphin has appeared to you today, frothing through the waves in your spread, you are to be a link to some solution for the children of the earth. You are to be a link to some solution for the children of the earth. This can be a time when you are to link with the Great Spirit and bring answers to your own questions or to those of others. In addition, this can mean a time of communication with the rhythms of nature. You are put on notice to be mindful of your body rhythms and the patterns of energy being fed to you from the Creator. Imitate Dolphin and ride the waves of laughter, spreading joy in the world. Breathe the experience, the manna so freely. Break existing barriers and connect to the dream time or the great Star Nation. Know that we are all whole in the eyes of the ever-living one. Now, contrary is, if Dolphin appears reversed, know that you are forgetting to breathe. You may be under stress and your body may need manna. You may be starving your cells and organs no matter how many vitamins you are taking. Your natural cycles may be following up. Pay close attention to your health and your feelings. If you are on edge or just tense, take time to relax and breathe the life force into your muscles. Focus on releasing old breath at the bottom of your lungs and refilling your respiratory system with regenerative manna. Breathe from the diaphragm and fill the lungs to capacity. Then exhale from the chest to the belly, allowing your body to totally relax as you breathe out. Another message of contrary dolphin is that many signals are carried through universal tides or waves, and you may be failing to use your sonar. To detect these new wave patterns, you may need to realign yourself with natural rhythms within your body. Then it is necessary to use the dolphin breath to connect to universal awarenesses and signals. Dolphin says to dive deeply into the water, to play by the coral reefs, and to discover the beauty of the rhythm of breath. That's interesting. Patience, and there are lots of stress and stuff going on out there. Obviously, it's not as bad in some areas as it was, but folks are still, getting whacked out. Now, we've had, it's been almost 2 weeks now, but we had a 36-hour period when Mother Earth was responding on the Schumann resonance, and it was literally a whiteout off of the charts. So if Mother Earth is responding that way, we're getting bombarded by some of this stuff too. We got to understand that, every person's going to respond to whatever's going on from the universe and going to make them feel better or worse. And I had a discussion with a friend of mine the other day, and I said, what have you, I've been observing there are some folks that I've known for a long time who have been more agitated recently. For whatever it is, they're just more agitated. And, and it doesn't seem to be anything changed in their life, but they're short, they're quick nature, and they have not been very nice in some instances. Mm-hmm. And then there are those of us who are like, wow, whoa, what the heck is going on here? And I cannot necessarily say that it's revitalizing, but it's dang sure interesting. And it doesn't necessarily put me, I think some of us are feeling a little tired.
Well, I think you're right, though. We had this on one of my shows a couple of weeks ago, or recently anyway. I can't remember which one it was, about how does the sun affect you with this? Maybe it was the other week where this wave is coming across and it's affecting the sun and the earth and everything like that. And how is it going to affect us? It's saying, and we discussed about how it would affect our DNA and all these other things, and changes in our mood and affects our brain and things like, it doesn't take much to throw us off a whack. Each person's affected differently.
Right. There are some folks who are like, they're acting like they ain't took their medicine. You know what I mean? Yes. Oh, all right, go back to go take your meds. But they're already on those meds, and they're even more wacky than they normally are, if that's,
yeah, absolutely.
Having been on mental health drugs and things like that, I get it. I'm not on anything like that anymore. But so those of us, I think, who are, very acutely aware of other things, our awareness level, I realized the other day, I'm talking with somebody, I said, oh my goodness, I've been doing this since I was a little kid. It's not like something new I picked up. I've been dabbling in this actually all my life, right? With dream time and things like that. So where other people have never had that experience, I've had it was when I was 8 or 9 years old. So these things are, I think, are being an antagonistic only because of their DNA or whatever, right? I don't think they're planning on being antagonistic or nasty or evil or whatever, but there's been some come out of some people. So patience with the ant, because we have to still be patient with some of these people during these times. I mean, I ain't got a clue as to what it's actually doing to me, but I absolutely know with talking with other people, how do you feel the other day? Man, my energy was all over. That's all I wanted to know.
Yep.
That me and you and them and us.
Yeah.
That day we were all having something,
Yeah. I noticed it myself. some days I'm just Mr. Mellow, and then other days I'm just, the wrong word and boom, I'm blowing up. How about you, Linda?
Well, I have to say, yes, I've seen a lot of it. It's been really prevalent the last month or so. And I know a lot of it has to do with people. I can tell you from experience, I know the weather, the sun, all those things affect your body, not just your mental status, but your body. Because with the autoimmune disorders I have, I know I can tell you when it's going to rain. I can tell you like when it's going to snow. I like this solar eclipse that just happened. I had a lot of Zen moments Sunday. All day I was very peaceful. So definitely the solar flares, the weather, all these crazy storms we're having, the hurricanes, the earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, all this stuff affects us. We don't realize because it sends that energy and frequency out into the air. I mean, it just, and when you got a lot of chaos going on, but you got to learn how to dance through that chaos, dance gracefully, keep yourself, try to be grounded and move through. But yes, absolutely. It's still going on now, but for the past month, it just seems like people that I know that are usually pretty laid back and level headed, they just flip all of a sudden and you're really like, where in the heck did that just come from? Like,
Yeah.
I've got really close friends, like my best friend Jamie, my fiance, my daughter, my kids, people that I love and that we know each other very well. And it's like you're just having a normal conversation and you just talk about one certain thing and all of a sudden they're just you're like, wait, what just happened here? I mean, yeah, so you got
Something
to have a lot of patience, David. You're absolutely right. You got to stay grounded in yourself. The big thing I think is happening is the truth is coming out to people about themselves and about the world, and you gotta see that truth and accept it. You got to accept the fact that there's good, there's great, there's bad, there's ugly about you, about other people, and it's all okay because we're all the same. Like, people don't know themselves and they're starting to learn who they are. They're seeing it because all these frequencies are kind of meant bringing stuff out in everybody. It's kind of like being a naturopathic doctor. I don't know if you've ever went to a naturopathic doctor, but they give you rent tinctures and remedies. And like those first 3 days that you take them, everything that you're trying to work on exasperates itself and gets really bad. And that's how it seems right now. Like all the stuff that's coming out that people are seeing, and now they're trying to learn how to deal with it. And if they've never, like you said, been spiritual or knew themselves like you, I've known since I was 3 or 4 years old, as far back as I can remember talking. But if you just stepped into this, then it becomes it's just like taking those drugs and trying to like level everything out and get yourself back to where you were before all this started happening. So I totally agree, David.
the thing with the Schumann resonance. Now there are some days where it just seems like the energies are all over the place, but it doesn't show up on the Schumann. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So but when the Schumann resonance goes, does a whiteout
Yes.
off from one end of the screen to the other, that's some serious business. And I think that some of these energies, I don't think, wait, let me back that up a little bit. It may have spiritual connections for some of us, but for others, it's just unknown. It's an energy they don't know what to deal with. They're confused. They're, can't get, so whether they're spiritually connected or not, because there's some folks that, are spiritual in ways, but they're just as deadgum confused, and their energy's off the charts. They say some of the weirdest things at the dumbest times. I just go, what? You said what? Okay.
I've also noticed a lot of car accidents on the road in the last 3 weeks, like having to go back and forth to my daughter's soccer games. It's like 4 or 5 times more than usual. So that tells me there's like road rage. People aren't paying attention. They're kind of, they're probably scatterbrained. There's a lot of stuff going on emotionally right now with people. And some of them don't understand, but, I think eventually they're going to start hopefully realizing what's going on with them, because people that don't know how all this stuff affects us, you just don't know what to do with it. You're just like, why am I feeling this way? Or maybe not. Maybe you're just like, I'm just being crappy today. I don't know why I'm being crappy. I just am. So.
But the interesting thing is, though, there's a lot of correlation with some of these energies and other people. So by observing it, I don't know what it's doing to me. I just know that I'm reacting to it. So, but there are people who don't want to believe that some of these things can actually make them feel weird on a certain day. And if your biorhythm is off that day and it's on a low slump, then you're going to feel worse than crap. I mean, it's going to be horrible. And so, and if folks are having issues mentally with dealing with things, that's just going to plunge them even deeper. So my dear friends, I have said this years ago when I was on with Brian all them many years ago. And the message was given to me by my higher side. And they said, look, tell everybody to get them an inner tube, a spiritual inner tube. Because if you're inside an inner tube, you ain't gonna tump over. You ain't gonna drown more than likely. And so, but them waves that come and go, you just sit in, you just be safe in your inner tube and know that you're gonna be bobbing up and down. If you're gonna have a high one day, there's gonna be a low coming. It might be in a week, it might be in a month, but there's gonna be that other side of that wave. So please don't freak out about it. And if you're feeling weird, call somebody and say, hey, how you feeling today? But knowing that it exists, honestly, I can say, well, I wonder why I'm feeling kind of blue today. Oh, Schumann's been hammering. Oh, well, okay. So I feel a little nostalgic and a tear will come, but I'll be over it because I know we're getting hammered by the universe.
So
I needed the inner tube, David. I'm glad you said that. About 3 weeks ago, I had a dream that in the morning hours, I was about to wake up, and I all night I was dreaming I was in this frequency sea, and I could see the blue and the yellow, all the waves were like these prismatic colors, and I kept going up and down, up and down. I was down under the water and I would come back. Well, it wasn't water, it was free, but it was like I was drowning in the frequency and then I was coming out of the frequency. And when I woke up, I was disoriented for a minute. I was like, what in the heck was that just happened? Like, because I felt lost. I felt lost out at the frequency sea, right?
Yeah.
So, see, if I'd have known about the inner tube, I would have took the inner tube and that dream with me and said, it's okay. I'm on my inner tube here. I can manage the frequencies. I could just ride through them.
Yeah, and you can get one of them ones with a little ducky on it or something, and but you get in the pool with that thought, so you can have fun with it. Like, I'm in these frequencies. Okay, I'm in an inner tube. Well, get yourself a ducky one, and and have some fun with it. Because we're all going through it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, speaking of going through it, we're long in the tooth, but way long tonight. But it was a very interesting night. I hope you all got a good dose of something out of it, because this was quite the adventure. David, you got a show after this?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah. Go get a cup of coffee, tune back in. He's probably going to do a show.
Yeah, probably, but.
Linda, you gonna get your thing started here soon? I was waiting on Monday and I didn't see anything.
Start going outside and taking videos with my camera, with my phone. I'm just gonna
do like Lucky said.
Yeah,
it's a video. What does a channel need? Videos. Worry about the other stuff later. Videos.
And the hardest thing is to begin.
Yes.
So just begin.
Yes. That's right. I see Giant's here. Haven't seen in a while. Hey, Giant, how you doing? I hope everybody else enjoyed the show. It's been a really good one. The Scotty Voice, Scratch, Crystal Clear is still in the house. Jackie J, Mary Wins, all stuck with us. Wow, we had a good crowd watch us the whole entire time, pretty much. So
thank you.
Yes, I thank you all. Remember, go out, spread the love. If they don't want the love, shove it down their throat. We are here to, yes, that's right. Give somebody a hug, do something nice for somebody, open a door, say hi, wave a
Smile.
little bit, smile.
Smile.
Yes, brighten somebody's day. Remember, be the frequency you want to receive. I love you all, everybody.
Love
We'll
you
see you
all.
next
Thank
time.
you.
Peace,
Cheers.
everybody.